Today I want to talk with you about joy, and I'm happy to do that. In John chapter 15, verse 11, what was the closing verse of the scripture I shared this past Sunday, Jesus says, I have said these things to you so that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be complete. Have you ever thought about the fact that part of what Jesus wants to give you is complete joy? Now, this takes a lot of people by surprise because if you think of the classical depictions of Jesus or Christ in art through the centuries, how many of those depictions picture Jesus looking happy or joyful or smiling? So many depictions of Christ are related to the crucifixion, which is obviously a time of great agony, pain, and death and suffering. So he's not going to be smiling then. But even other scenes of Jesus' life, I don't think most of us immediately picture Jesus with a smiling, joyful look on his face. And yet, not once, but 3 times in John's Gospel, in chapter 15, 16, and 17, Jesus speaks about the joy that he wants his disciples to have and to experience. So in chapter 16, in verses 22 and 24, Jesus says, So you have pain now at his departing, but I will see you again, and your hearts will rejoice, and no one will take your joy from you. And then again in verse 24 he says, Until now you have not asked for anything in my name. Ask and you will receive, so that your joy may be complete. There it is again, complete joy. And then over in chapter 17, in verse 13, Jesus, as part of his prayer to God, says, But now I am coming to you, meaning he's returning to the Father who sent him, and I speak these things in the world so that they may have my joy made complete in themselves. So 3 times as part of this final discourse that Jesus gives in John 15, 16, and 17, he talks about wanting your joy and my joy and all of his disciples to have complete joy. So how are you doing with that? How are you on the joy scale today? And what's the difference between joy and happiness? As I mentioned in my sermon, I think happiness is often a little more dependent on our circumstances. If we have a family member who is sick or not feeling well or going through a trial, that's difficult. It's hard to be happy. Yay, my child is suffering, right? That's not how we respond. But joy, I think, is deeper than happiness. It goes further than our circumstances, and it speaks to our relationship with Jesus. And if we know we have a friend who loves us, cares about us, will never abandon us or forsake us, that gives us a bedrock sense of joy that can carry us through all the seasons and even the challenges of life.